Welcome back. I'm Tyler, you're watching Scarfing Scarves, and welcome to the 63rd installment of Last Week Lolita News. At the top of the segment, we've reached the time of year where the EGL community can feel the inevitable Hello Kitty gifts slowly creeping towards them like the creature from It Follows. Most have already come to terms with the fact that their family thinks they're a pastel degenerate, and the minute number among us lucky enough to have a family learned enough in the frilly arts not to hurt themselves on Lace Market are still bearing the brunt of that one great aunt that insists on getting you outfits better suited to an 18th century bordello. Which leaves you wondering whether she legitimately thinks a French maid costume is Lolita or is just really cool about you being a prevert. Neither of which matter because you still need to shove the pain deep into the crevices of your soul and smile for the camera. Speaking of things that cause unbearable agony, Angelic Pretty has whipped out their winter releases. No one is impressed. And this reporter didn't know what she expected from a country that thinks KFC is a Christmas tradition, but it certainly wasn't a festive shower curtain with snowmen sex toys front and center. This thing puts the no in Fancy Noel. Angelic Pretty was not done. And to top their contribution to the season of gift giving, this brand gave us all the privilege of not spending our hecking money on fairy snore decoration. God knows it takes skill to photograph a dress with the same energy as an awkward middle school photo. Still not as bad as dreamy floor tiles over there, but that's a low fracking bar. Now, is this dress probably really cute in person? Maybe. Am I taking out my frustration on there being no acceptable Christmas print from AP this year on perfectly innocent frocks? Absolutely. Granted, the little self-awareness I've managed won't make a difference, but there's a certain amusement in watching the words leave your mouth, immediately regretting them, and then doubling down on them because you'll be damned if the hole you've dug isn't deep enough to bury you afterward. I'm not even going to touch this Dutch tilt made into a dress. Zul knows the therapy on that one is better since sussing out the exact moment I decided to use insults as a means of affection. There is something deeply wrong with me, and transitioning to a brand that doesn't try my patience, Lady Sloth has released photos of an upcoming print that is a counterpart to their popular My Coffee Time series. This one features a gorgeous tea spread, and I'm ridiculously excited to see it in dusty pink. All the other colors are secondary, and that is entirely a personal bias because Zul forbid I wear anything Regina George wouldn't endorse on a Wednesday. We don't have word on an exact release date yet, but rest assured you'll hear me screaming from the space station right about the time it drops. Speaking of high-pitched screaming, the mods of Facebook group Lolita Humor were said to be heard round the world when one of their group members posted the sinking of a Taobao ship that killed 2 people as a joke. Many commenters found themselves questioning their endurance for full-body cringe. And the group met a swift and sudden closure as those responsible for its management reconsidered their tethers to sanity. We have, at this time, absolutely no fracking idea when it will ever come back, and the community is waiting with bated breath to see if they will ever be able to paste a bow on an unrelated meme ever again. Wishing those mods well as they traverse their existential crisis of conscience, and as that about wraps up the week, the community has managed to erupt into chaos, and there is no better way to return with LWLN than to report on something that will make you nauseous in new and unexpected ways. We turn towards Last Week Lolita News' next special segment. Sissy fetishists were a mistake and should be collectively fired into a turbine. Welcome to Sissies Should Dry Hump a Cactus. And it all started in Closet of Frills. Specifically with this post. A post I will read verbatim because posting a fracking stock picture of a replica dress from Wish to a group specifically for outfit shots is not dumb enough. They had to drop the half a brain cell they had left with, "I just got this if Wish and not sure if it's proper Lolita, but please can you tell me what goes with this and accessories wise to make a nice cord." Whether or not that cord should be attached to an outlet aside, people quickly revealed that the OP in question is a sissy. He's been messaging random Lolitas, has pulled this shit before, and his Facebook likes are full of adult baby, sissy, and My Little Pony diaper fetish groups, as if the first two weren't enough to get him a solid ticket to the deepest pantheon of everlasting hellfire. At least your average creep has the decency to jerk it to human beings. This one skipped the bipeds and went full horsefucker in fracking Pampers. What little dignity our species possessed was snuffed out with horse pedo, and I'm afraid it only goes downhill from here. Because it soon comes out that he is also responsible for an image seemingly summoned from the depths of children's nightmares. I didn't know a photograph could make a soul feel grubby before now. And all proof of their utter creepiness aside, said Sissy pops up in the comments to defend themselves, saying they're, quote, doing their best, and they're fairly new to the fashion. A fail that continues when the thread reveals that he has a humiliation fetish YouTube linked on his profile. I wish I had the innocence in my soul to be surprised. He tried to claim that the grimy hobgoblin was someone else, said he didn't have any fetishes, and as if that slack-jawed endorsement for the firing squad wasn't potent enough, someone took it upon themselves to overlook everything posted up to that point and type out the following. We shall call this person Linda. And Linda, after a bunch of nonsense on how to buy Lolita from Wish as if that was a viable option, followed up up with,
"Sorry for all the rude comments and unhelpful comments. DOS community is full of hatred and rich people who can't afford and fit into on-brand clothing."
which would beg the question, what is reading comprehension? A sentiment that is soon followed by several commenters as they try to point out that the merited backlash against this degenerate is drawn from the fact that OP isn't asking about Lolita in good faith, they are a fetishist and are using the group as a giant excuse to make Jesus cry. A mountain of proof that Linda decides not to read doubles down on their assertion that OP is just a newbie, tells everyone to just ignore the obvious predator as if that's a moral solution, and ties that up with,
"If I don't like or agree with a post, I don't engage in shame unlike a lot of the Lolita community does. Anyone can like and enjoy Lolita fashion."
as well as,
"The rest of the person's likes, interests, and hobbies don't need to matter unless it breaks group rules somehow."
so by that logic, we should totally let a dog fucker in a pet store, Linda. Are you hearing yourself, or did your brain short circuit long before you decided Lolitas are all just rich meanies was a respectable point in the year of our Lord 2019? God knows your complaints stuck in the LiveJournal days, and so is your stance on letting fucking predators into groups so they can message non-consenting people about their kink and post in spaces populated by unsuspecting women and minors. The time that women just grinned and bore it through this type of bullshit went out with the asbestos that must be responsible for this train of thought. A train that managed to derail itself even harder when, after even more patient explaining from several commenters, Linda came back to say she didn't understand how a sissy can't like more than one thing, accused Lolitas of not liking him because his interests didn't fall into their bubble, claimed he can't be a problem if the admins hadn't removed him yet, and ended that abortion of coherent thought with the demand that the Lolitas commenting explain things as if they hadn't already in ways even a poorly trained Shih Tzu would manage to absorb. I have seen turnips with better retention, several saints try to lay it out for her again, and whatever dingy bit of gray matter Linda had on shift that day managed to ask, what's wrong with being a sissy? How is he a creep? If this isn't allowed, why is he still here? And why does being a sissy mean he can't also enjoy Lolita fashion? A slew of queries indistinguishable from the gurgles of the legally brain dead, and to gloss over the very obvious fact that allowing a creature that has a history of messaging members in order to further their own sexual gratification without consent being a phenomenally bad idea aside, being a sissy basically requires on getting off of the humiliation of wearing women's clothing or being like a woman as a man. The idea that women's clothing or being a woman is something humiliating in any way is massively sexist. And because of that, there is absolutely no way sissies could ever be welcome in a fashion that is specifically non-sexual and focused on the celebration of femininity. There has to be a line drawn on how far this farce can go, Linda, and at this point, I'd suggest you use it to find your way back to a period of time before you opened your fracking mouth. Linda then repeats herself several times because of a short-term memory deficit I presume she inherited from licking paint. Someone posts the diaper fetish My Little Pony group he's a part of, and Linda finally claims to somewhat understand the uproar, at least until she ends her epiphany that this man is a giant creep with, being a sissy doesn't mean you can't genuinely like Lolita fashion, which is the dumbest sentence I've heard this week. Right up there with, being a vegan doesn't mean you can't eat prime rib, grass is blue, and women should just contend with obvious predators in their groups because God forbid we hurt the degenerates' fifis, they might get upset and decide to leave us all the hell alone. Linda leaves to haunt another unlucky corner of the internet. It comes out that OP was banned from Big Sisters of Lolita fashion for being a prevert, and some lady we'll call Sally points them towards Lolita Amino instead. The horror of having a sissy sent towards an app peopled by a frack ton of children aside, Sally then waves off a commenter's concern that they are helping a sissy fetishist who is pretending to be a woman in order to invade our community with, you could say the same thing about trans people. A statement which is wrong, and anyone who tries to conflate humiliation fetish cross-dressing with trans women is welcome to take an express train to the end of the line, get out, and keep going. You can stop when the earth has ceased to spin. Until then, I don't want to hear another godforsaken attempt at a thought. The sissy proceeds to take that golden opportunity to claim to be a brolita. People post more of his gross fetish groups. He tells them to stop looking at his profile as if that will help. And as if his obvious attempt to use the group for his own disturbing means wasn't enough, he combines disgust with dumbassery by asking if his $15 wish dress is okay, claimed to have first tried to buy from Angelic Pretty, and revealed that he is in the UK, meaning that for all the absolutely nightmare-inducing horseshit my country is known for, at least this specific hobgoblin isn't currently within the confines. His final words go to complaining about how expensive Lolita dresses are, even though he was allegedly prepared to buy from AP. Someone SpongeBob memes him like a champion, champion, and the threat is mercifully death raid from above as the mods woke from their winter hibernation to find their group infested with degenerates, the gnashing of teeth resulting from it, and the Lolita community can lumber on safe in the knowledge that I give it 5 minutes before another one crawls out of the darkness, covers itself in satin, and defiles our doorstep once more. An image that I will leave you on, because that's all the time we have for tonight. This has been Tyler. You've been watching Scarfing Scarves. And before you drown your suffering in the nearest bottle of Jack Daniels, you should know that this show is sponsored in part by BB&B. They are the best thing in sweets jewelry this side of the planet. Link to their shop below. And to wrap things up with a big fracking bow, I'd like to thank my patrons for being the reason I can use the English language as a weapon. You guys are primarily responsible for funding the spite. And should you like to join their ranks, you can head over to patreon.com/lastweeklolitanews. I'd recommend you do near anything else should you like to keep some sense of good in the world. Thanks again, guys, and I'll catch you next time.